Well, as we start tonight with the uncertainty around the finals. Caro, this has been moving all day. The grand final is a big prize. Western Australia are in the frame. Victoria hanging on. Where do you think this will unfold?
Well, I certainly don't believe Victoria will have any finals in week 1 nor week 2 of the finals. That is just a complete given now, Craig. The game's governors are meeting well into tonight. They're talking to the Victorian Cabinet, obviously, and I think it's a day too early to say where those finals will be. We can really only say with certainty that if Brisbane finish 5th, they will play Essendon at the Gabba. If Brisbane finish 4th, then they'll be going somewhere else. I just do not believe the AFL are prepared to have any finals without crowds in Victoria. So it's finals, week 1 and 2 are definitely gone.
The grand final is interesting. Victoria still feel there's a pathway to get there on about a 50,000 circa crowd if things go their way with the cases in the next couple of weeks. That will feel a bit raw right now to Victorians who are dealing with curfews and playgrounds and meaningful things tonight. But that scenario still, with grand finals somewhere 6 weeks away, maybe even 6.5 weeks away if the 2-week break stays in, and you contrast that against Perth, because bear in mind, Perth will lock down if there's a case or even one case. So that's the risk exposure.
Well, the West Australian Premier actually spoke today and his words were a little bit concerning to footy fans.
Our intention is that those sorts of groups wouldn't be permitted to join players coming in. It'd be a very strict and tight regime. I would expect most footballers, in fact probably all, are already vaccinated. I certainly would have thought that would be a wise decision by the AFL, but I understand our police and our health officials are working with the AFL at this point in time about what the protocols will be.
Well, they're not all vaccinated, and even I wouldn't say, Matthew, the majority are all vaccinated. No families. Obviously, the sterile corridor is working well going into Perth. I believe there will clearly be finals there in week 1 and 2. There'll be finals in South Australia, and even without Brisbane, there might be a final in Queensland. Tassie looking a bit more difficult, but that's a problem, isn't it? That's a problem there.
Why aren't we taking it all there then? I know suddenly we scrapped the bye, but wouldn't you think, I thought first week, OK, we allow the integrity of the final series, whether that be Melbourne playing one at the MCG.
No.
No. So why?
Well, here's, I guess, the downside of that. There's been 2 occasions this year where there's been a case in Perth and it has been a lockdown straight away, which has been the right community decision to do, and no fans. Yeah. So you do run that risk on a case in Perth. You probably don't run that on a case necessarily anywhere else, like Adelaide and certainly like Melbourne, which could probably play a grand final with low number of cases still in the community, albeit in isolation. What's your view, Kane, on who does it suit and what's the play here?
Yeah, I'm interested in this weekend. I mean, why would you make a case for Melbourne or Geelong to play any of their players, which ironically is the reason the pre-finals bye came in? It was Ross Lyon, wasn't it, at Fremantle, who rested 13 players in the last round before.
Brad Scott was helped it along a year or two later.
So why would any of those players play? And I guess the integrity of this round will be thrown into question, which I'm okay with, because those teams have earned the right to rest players because they've fought for 22 rounds to finish 1 and 2 on the ladder. But there's no incentive for Geelong or Melbourne to win this week if the first final is not going to be played on their home ground.
And the Sydney Swans too, I'm not sure their position can really change from 5th or 6th either. It made me think, Hutchie, with no bye, no extra week for teams who have got injuries, who it suits, who it doesn't. I think Melbourne are probably travelling really, really well in Port Adelaide. This is who I believe have best players out of their best 22 out. So in Geelong's case, I think they have 6 of their best 22 out of the side. Atkins, Duncan, Myers, Tui, Stewart, Rowan. So it's one less week to get those guys in. Whereas for Port Adelaide, I don't think Motlop and Hartlett are in their best 22, so I've got left that at 0. And Melbourne have Tom McDonald and Steve May, who come back this week and pretty much have their best 22 ready to go. So, yeah, I think a few of those teams would have wished for a bye, like Geelong.
Just as a little addendum to it, looks like the government will call off the state football competitions, the second-tier competitions. There is a desire at headquarters, at the game's governing body headquarters, to have just one final to decide the VFL Premiership. Ironically, Footscray at the top of the ladder, but Southport, because of course they've introduced the NEAFL teams in this year, are number 2. Hugely problematic to get part-time footballers down to Victoria with quarantine or get them up to Queensland. So Box Hill are 3rd on the ladder. I think the game would be played at Marvel Stadium. It could be Footscray, Box Hill, and Sam Mitchell might be a premiership coach by the end of the year.
Just to wrap this up, as we move on. Perth would be magnificent.
Yeah.
We saw the Derby was unbelievable. I think it'd be a sensational place to play grand final, one chance to do it, and the best commercial outcome.
Yeah.
I just think Victoria will hang on for dear life to try and make it happen, and it's a 2-horse race.